My school refused to let me graduate because I missed school taking care of my mom, and I made it my biggest comeback. But the real graduation day broke me again. I was 17 when my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. We'd gone to the ER because she'd been having stomach pains for weeks and couldn't keep food down. She thought it was an ulcer, maybe stress from working double shifts at the hospital where she was a nurse. The doctor came in with that look, the one that says everything's about to change. "We found a mass on your pancreas. It's large and it's spread to your liver." I'm sorry. Mom didn't cry. She just nodded, like she'd been expecting it, like part of her had known all along. I was the one who fell apart. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. When I came back, Mom was asking questions. What are the treatment options? What's the prognosis? How long do I have? The doctors gave her 6 months, maybe a year with aggressive treatment. My father had left when I was 9, just walked out one day and never came back. Sent divorce papers 3 months later from wherever he'd disappeared to. My older brother Caleb was deployed overseas with the Marines, stationed in Okinawa. It was just me and Mom in our small house on the edge of town. Someone had to take her to chemo appointments 3 times a week. Someone had to hold the basin when she vomited. Someone had to make sure she ate, even when food tasted like metal and made her nauseous. Someone had to pick up her prescriptions, manage her bills, clean the house she was too weak to maintain, help her shower when she couldn't stand on her own. That someone was me. At first, I thought I could manage both, school and caregiving. I'd just work harder, sleep less, be more efficient. The first month wasn't too bad. Mom was still relatively strong. The chemo made her tired and nauseous, but she could still do most things herself. I'd take her to appointments in the afternoon, be back for last period most days. But cancer doesn't stay manageable. It gets worse. By October, Mom couldn't drive. She could barely walk from the bedroom to the bathroom without getting winded. The chemo was destroying her as fast as the cancer was. I missed my first full day of school when she had a reaction to the chemo. She couldn't stop vomiting. I spent 8 hours in the ER with her while they pumped her full of fluids and anti-nausea medication. I missed my second full day when she fell in the shower and I had to call an ambulance. She'd broken 2 ribs. By November, I was missing school 2 or 3 times a week. I'd go to first and second period, then leave to take Mom to her 11 a.m. appointment. Sometimes I'd make it back for 6th period. Sometimes I wouldn't. My teachers were understanding at first. Mrs. Bass, my English teacher, would let me turn in essays late. Mr. Peterson, my calculus teacher, gave me extra time on tests. They all knew about Mom. But understanding only goes so far when you're missing that much school. I missed 47 days total that year, 47 out of 180, more than a quarter of the school year. But I kept up with the work. Every assignment I missed, I made up. Every test I couldn't take, I took later. I did homework in hospital waiting rooms while Mom slept. I studied between doses of her medication. I wrote essays at 2 a.m. when the house was finally quiet. I maintained a 3.8 GPA despite everything. I'd gotten into State University with a partial scholarship to study nursing, following in Mom's footsteps. The scholarship covered half my tuition and was renewable for 4 years if I maintained a 3.5 GPA. It was the only way I could afford college. Without it, I couldn't go. I just needed to graduate high school. That was it. Get the diploma, start college in the fall, begin building the future Mom and I had planned. 2 weeks before graduation, I was called into Principal Matthews' office. I'd been in his office before. Early in the school year, after my first week of absences, he'd called me in to check in. He'd seemed concerned then, asking about my mom, telling me to let him know if I needed anything. His door was always open, he said. This time felt different. His secretary's face was carefully neutral when she told me he wanted to see me. No smile, no warmth. Principal Matthews sat behind his desk, my attendance file open in front of him. I could see the red marks indicating absences. There were a lot of them. "Have a seat, Madison," he said. I sat. My stomach was already twisting. "I've been reviewing your attendance record," he said, not looking at me. "You've missed 47 days this year." "I know. I've been taking care of my mom. She has cancer. I'm aware of your situation." He finally looked up. However, school policy clearly states that students who miss more than 30 days without approved medical leave cannot graduate with their class. The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? You've exceeded the absence limit by 17 days. According to policy, I'm afraid you won't be able to participate in graduation." My mouth went dry. But I've kept up with all my work. My teachers have been working with me. My GPA is still 3.8. I've passed all my classes. This isn't about grades, Madison. It's about attendance. The policy exists to ensure students are actually attending school and learning the material in a classroom environment. I have been learning the material. I've passed every test, completed every assignment. Ask any of my teachers. He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. The policy is clear. 30 days is the limit. You've missed 47. But I have a college scholarship. It requires me to graduate on time. If I don't graduate in June, I lose it. You should have applied for medical leave at the beginning of the year. That would have protected you from the attendance policy. I didn't know she'd get this sick. The diagnosis came in September. We thought she'd respond to treatment. I didn't know I'd have to miss so much school. I understand this is difficult. Do you? I interrupted, my voice rising. Do you understand what it's like to watch your mother die? To be the only person taking care of her? To try to keep up with school while your entire life is falling apart? His expression hardened. I'm sorry, Madison, but I can't make exceptions. If I let you graduate despite missing 47 days, I'd have to let everyone graduate regardless of attendance. Rules are rules. They exist for a reason. The reason isn't to punish students for taking care of dying parents. You'll need to attend summer school and complete the required attendance days. You can graduate in August. It's only a 2-month delay. My scholarship starts in the fall. If I don't graduate by July 1st, I lose it. Do you understand what you're taking from me? His face remained impassive. You should have thought about that before missing so much school. Perhaps you should have arranged for alternative care for your mother. There are home health services, hospice care. We can't afford those. We can barely afford her medication. I'm sorry, but my hands are tied. The policy is the policy. I stood up, shaking. This isn't fair. Life isn't fair, Madison. You're about to learn that. I walked out of his office feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. I made it to my car before I started crying, huge, gasping sobs that made my ribs hurt. I called Mom from the parking lot. She was having a good day, which meant she was awake and alert, not vomiting. Sweetheart, why aren't you in class? Mom, I could barely get the words out. They're not letting me graduate. Silence. Then, what? I explained everything. The attendance policy, the 30-day limit, summer school, losing the scholarship. Mom started crying. This is my fault. This is all my fault. It's not. Don't say that. You should have been in school. You should have let someone else take care of me. There was no one else, Mom. It's just us. It's always been just us. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. We cried together on the phone for 10 minutes. Then Mom said, come home. We'll figure this out. When I got home, Mom was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked tiny in her oversized sweater, her head wrapped in a scarf to cover her baldness from chemo, but her eyes were fierce. We're not accepting this, she said. Mom, it's policy. I don't care if it's policy. It's wrong, and we're going to fight it. How? However we have to. That night, Caleb called from Okinawa. Mom had emailed him about what happened. He was furious. That's bullshit, he said. Complete bullshit. Language. Mom called from the couch. Sorry, Mom, but it is. Maddie's been killing herself taking care of you while keeping her grades up. How can they punish her for that? I don't know, I said, but they are. So what are you going to do about it? What can I do? It's policy. Policies can be changed. You need to fight this. Document everything. Get your teachers on your side. Go over his head to the school board. You think that'll work? I think you don't have anything to lose by trying. He was right. The next morning, I started organizing. I went through every medical bill, every hospital discharge summary, every doctor's note. I created a timeline of Mom's illness, matching it to my school absences. Every day I'd missed, I documented exactly why. October 3rd, Mom's chemo reaction, 8 hours in ER. October 15th, Mom fell in shower, broken ribs, ambulance. October 22nd, chemo appointment, severe nausea, couldn't leave her alone, on and on. 47 days of documentation. Then I went to my teachers, all 11 of them. I asked each one to write a letter supporting me, explaining that I'd completed all coursework despite my absences. Mrs. Bass wrote 3 pages about my dedication, about essays I'd written in hospital waiting rooms, about how I'd never used my situation as an excuse. Mr. Peterson wrote about how I'd stay after school for extra help, how I'd never missed a deadline, how my work ethic was exceptional. Every single teacher wrote a letter, 11 letters all saying the same thing. I'd earned my diploma. I also got a letter from Mom's oncologist, Dr. Patel. He wrote, Madison Brooks has been the sole caregiver for her terminally ill mother for the past 8 months. She has attended every medical appointment, managed all aspects of her mother's care, and advocated for her mother's needs with remarkable maturity. The demands placed on this young woman would challenge most adults. That she has maintained her academic performance while providing this level of care is extraordinary. To punish her for choosing to care for her dying mother would be unconscionable. Armed with all this documentation, I wrote a formal letter to the school board requesting a meeting and an exception to the attendance policy. The school board meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday, 4 days away. Those 4 days were the longest of my life. I couldn't sleep. I kept rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd present my case. Mom helped me practice, playing devil's advocate, asking hard questions. What if they say no? She asked. Then I figure out plan B. What's plan B? I don't know yet. Tuesday came. I wore the nicest clothes I owned, black pants and a white blouse that Mom had bought me for college interviews. Mom couldn't come. She was too weak that day, could barely get out of bed. Patricia, Mom's friend from the hospital, drove me. She'd been helping out when she could, bringing meals, sitting with Mom so I could go to school. You're going to do great, she said as we pulled into the high school parking lot. The school board meeting was held in the library. There were maybe 30 people there. Board members, administrators, some parents who were there for other agenda items. Principal Matthews was there. He looked annoyed. The board president, Mrs. Chen, was a small Asian woman with sharp eyes and a kind face. She called the meeting to order and went through the regular agenda items first. Budget reports, curriculum changes, facilities updates. After 45 minutes, she finally said, "We have a special request from a student. Madison Brooks has asked to address the board regarding the attendance policy." Madison? I stood up, my legs shaking. I walked to the front of the room and stood at the podium. I'd brought a folder 3 inches thick with all my documentation. "My name is Madison Brooks," I started, my voice cracking. I cleared my throat. "I'm a senior, and I'm here to request an exception to the attendance policy." I told them everything. About Mom's diagnosis in September, about being her only caregiver, about the 47 days I'd missed, about maintaining my grades despite everything, about the scholarship I'd lose if I couldn't graduate on time. My voice broke several times. I cried, but I kept going. "I'm not asking you to change the policy for everyone," I said. "I'm asking you to recognize that sometimes life doesn't fit into neat boxes. I've done everything I can to keep up with school while keeping my mom alive. I've earned my diploma. I've completed every assignment, passed every test. I've learned more this year than any textbook could teach me. I've learned about responsibility, about sacrifice, about fighting for the people you love. I'm just asking you to let me walk across that stage with my class, to not punish me for choosing to take care of my dying mother." When I finished, the room was silent. Several board members were crying. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat. "Thank you, Madison. That was very moving. I'd like to review your documentation. You mentioned you have supporting letters?" "Yes." I handed her the folder. 11 letters from my teachers, all stating that I've completed all coursework and deserve to graduate. A letter from my mother's oncologist. And documentation of every absence, hospital bills, discharge summaries, appointment records. Mrs. Chen spent 10 minutes going through everything. The other board members passed the documents around. Finally, Mrs. Chen looked at Principal Matthews. "Principal Matthews, why wasn't this student granted medical leave?" "She never applied for it," he said stiffly. "Did anyone inform her that medical leave was an option?" Silence. "I see." Mrs. Chen's voice was cold. "So we have a 17-year-old student caring for her terminally ill mother, trying to maintain her education, and no one thought to inform her that there was a formal process that could have protected her. Medical leave forms are available in the counseling office. Available isn't the same as offered, especially to a student who is clearly overwhelmed." She looked at the other board members. "I'd like to propose that we make an exception in this case. However, to ensure academic integrity, I suggest that the student complete all missed coursework before graduation. If she can demonstrate that she's mastered the material despite the absences, I see no reason to prevent her from graduating on time." One of the other board members, Mr. Harrison, spoke up. "That's a lot of work to complete in 2 weeks." "It is," Mrs. Chen agreed. "Madison, do you think you can complete 47 days of missed work in 2 weeks?" Every logical part of my brain said no. It was impossible. But I thought about Mom at home, too weak to come support me. I thought about the scholarship slipping away. I thought about everything we'd already survived. "Yes," I said. "I can do it." The board voted. It wasn't unanimous. Mr. Harrison and one other member voted no, but it passed. I could graduate with my class if I completed all the missed work before graduation. I had 2 weeks. Patricia hugged me in the parking lot. "You did it." "I haven't done anything yet. I still have to complete all the work." "You'll do it." "I know you will." When I got home, Mom was waiting up. "Well?" They said yes, but I have to make up all 47 days of work in 2 weeks. Mom's face went pale. "That's impossible." "I don't have a choice." "Honey, I can do this, Mom. I have to." The next morning, I met with each of my teachers. They each gave me a packet of work, the lessons I'd missed, the assignments I hadn't completed, practice tests for the material I hadn't been in class to learn. The pile was enormous, easily 200 hours of work, maybe more, and I had 14 days. My English teacher, Mrs. Bass, pulled me aside after I picked up her packet. "This is a lot," she said. "Are you sure you can handle this?" "I have to. I'll help. Stay after school tomorrow. We'll work on the essays together." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to, but I'm going to." One by one, my teachers offered to help. Mr. Peterson said he'd come in on Saturday to tutor me in calculus. My history teacher, Mr. Fleming, emailed me his lecture notes from the classes I'd missed. My biology teacher, Ms. Jackson, recorded video lessons for me to watch. They were all going above and beyond what was required, because they believed in me. But it still wasn't enough time. Even with their help, I'd need to work 14-16 hours a day to complete everything. Mom's friends stepped up. Patricia created a schedule. Someone was always at our house to help with Mom, cooking meals, managing medication, keeping her company, so I could focus on work. Carol, another nurse from Mom's hospital, took vacation days to stay with Mom during the day. Denise brought dinner every night. Patricia came every evening after her shift. "You focus on school," Patricia said. "We've got your mom." But I couldn't fully disconnect. Several times a day, I'd check on Mom between assignments. Make sure she'd eaten. Make sure she was comfortable. Make sure she was still breathing. The fear was always there, lurking in the background. What if she died before I finished? What if I was doing homework while she took her last breath? "I'm not going anywhere," Mom said when I voiced this fear. "I'm holding on until you walk across that stage. I promise." I didn't sleep. I'd work until 4 a.m., sleep for 2 hours, then start again. I lived on coffee and granola bars. I lost 8 pounds in those 2 weeks because I kept forgetting to eat. Caleb called every night from Okinawa. We'd be on the phone for hours while he quizzed me on history dates, helped me work through calculus problems, proofread my essays. "You're doing great," he'd say. "Just keep going." But I didn't feel great. I felt like I was drowning. Mrs. Bass stayed after school for 3 hours on Wednesday helping me write comparative analysis essays. Mr. Peterson gave up his entire Saturday to tutor me in calculus. We worked from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., only stopping for bathroom breaks. "You're getting it," he kept saying. "You're actually getting it." By day 7, I'd completed about half the work. I was on track, barely, but exhausted in a way I'd never experienced. My hands shook when I tried to write. My eyes burned. I'd started having stress-induced nosebleeds. Mom was worried. "You're going to make yourself sick." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You look terrible." 7 more days, then it's done. That night, Mom had a bad episode. She woke up screaming in pain. We spent 4 hours in the ER while they adjusted her pain medication. I brought my history homework and worked on it in the ER waiting room at 2 a.m. A nurse found me there, hunched over a textbook, crying from exhaustion. "You're Margaret's daughter, right?" I nodded. She sat down next to me. "I was on shift last week when you brought her in, and the week before. I've seen you doing homework in her room while she sleeps. I've seen you hold her hand through the painful moments." She paused. "You're doing an incredible job." "It doesn't feel like it. I feel like I'm failing at everything." "You're not failing. You're surviving. There's a difference." I finished the history homework at 5 a.m. in Mom's hospital room while she slept. Then I drove home, showered, and went to school. By day 10, I was running on pure adrenaline. I'd developed a twitch in my left eye from lack of sleep. I'd burned myself making coffee because I was too tired to notice the pot was hot, but I kept going. With 3 days left, I still had my calculus final, my biology project, and 2 more English essays to complete. It was tight, but doable. Then Mom fell. I was at school, working in the library during lunch when Patricia called. "Madison, don't panic, but your mom fell. She's okay, just bruised, but she's really shaken up." I left immediately. Found Mom on the couch, crying. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay. Are you hurt?" "Just my pride. I can't even walk to the bathroom anymore without falling." I spent the rest of the day with her, which meant I lost 5 hours of work time. 5 hours I didn't have to lose. That night, I worked until I literally couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. I fell asleep at my desk, my face pressed against my biology textbook. Mom found me there at 6 a.m. She woke me gently. "You need to sleep in a bed. I need to finish. You need to take care of yourself. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. 2 more days. I just need 2 more days." She grabbed my face in her hands. They were so thin now, all bone. "Listen to me. If you don't finish, if this is too much, I need you to promise me you'll forgive yourself. This isn't worth destroying your health over. I'm going to finish. Promise me anyway." "I promise." I finished everything with 6 hours to spare. Turned in my last assignment, the biology project, on Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Graduation was Saturday. Mrs. Bass looked at the project and then at me. I must have looked terrible because her eyes filled with tears. "You did it," she said. "I honestly didn't think it was possible, but you actually did it. Is it good enough?" "It's excellent. Everything you've turned in has been excellent. You should be proud." I was too exhausted to feel proud. I just felt relief. That night, I slept for 14 hours straight. Mom checked on me every few hours to make sure I was still breathing. Friday was graduation rehearsal. I stumbled through it in a daze. They had us walk through the ceremony, practice receiving our diplomas, take our assigned seats. I'd be walking across the stage between Michael Anderson and Tracy Brooks, alphabetically sorted, like everything else in life. After rehearsal, Principal Matthews approached me. "I heard you completed all the work," he said. "I did." "That's impressive." I waited for an apology, for some acknowledgement that what he'd put me through was unnecessary, cruel even. It never came. "See you tomorrow," was all he said. That night, Mom called me into her room. She was sitting up in bed, which was rare lately. She looked serious. "I have something for you," she said. She handed me a card. Inside was a check for $5,000. My hands started shaking. "Mom, where did you get this?" "I've been saving, from before I got sick. I had a whole plan, help you with college, maybe take a trip somewhere, but I didn't think—" Her voice broke. "I didn't think I'd still be here to give it to you. Use it for whatever you need. Books, housing, whatever the scholarship doesn't cover." I started crying. "You should keep this. For treatment. I don't need it. The insurance covers treatment. And honestly, honey, I'm not going to be here long enough to spend it. I need you to take it. I need you to go to college. I need you to become the nurse I can't be anymore. I need you to have the future I wanted for you. Mom, promise me. Promise me you'll use this. Promise me you'll go to college and you'll make something of yourself. Promise me my dying won't be for nothing. It won't be. I promise." We held each other and cried. Graduation day was bright and clear. Perfect weather. Mom insisted on coming, even though she could barely sit up. Patricia and Carol came to help. We got Mom dressed in her nicest clothes. a blue dress that now hung off her skeletal frame. We wrapped a pretty scarf around her head, put makeup on her to hide how gray her skin had become. The transfer from bed to wheelchair took 20 minutes. Every movement caused her pain, but she was determined. "I'm not missing this," she said. "I didn't hold on this long to miss you walking across that stage." Patricia drove us. I sat in the back with Mom, holding her hand. She dozed off twice during the 10-minute drive. The ceremony was being held at the football field. We had to get Mom's wheelchair across the parking lot and down to the seating area. Every bump made her wince. We got her settled in the front row. Carol stayed with her while I went to line up with my class. The ceremony started. There were speeches about the future, about all the places we'd go, all the things we'd accomplish. The valedictorian talked about perseverance. The salutatorian talked about community. I barely heard any of it. I kept craning my neck to see Mom in the front row, making sure she was still awake, still there. Finally, they started calling names. Michael Anderson. He walked across the stage to applause. Madison Brooks. That was me. I stood up. My legs felt weak. I walked toward the stage, each step surreal. This was it. This was what I'd fought for, what I'd sacrificed sleep and health and sanity for. I climbed the stairs to the stage. Principal Matthews was standing there, handing out diplomas. Our eyes met. His face was neutral, professional. He handed me the diploma without a word. I took it. The piece of paper that had cost me everything. The applause was deafening. I could hear Patricia and Carol screaming. I looked down at the front row. Mom was crying, but she was smiling too, this huge, radiant smile. She was clapping, even though I knew it hurt her to lift her arms. Our eyes met across the distance. She mouthed, "I'm so proud of you." I walked off the stage, diploma in hand, tears streaming down my face. After the ceremony, everyone wanted photos. My classmates, their families, teachers. Mom sat in her wheelchair while I stood beside her in my cap and gown. "Smile," Patricia kept saying, taking picture after picture. Mom was beaming in every photo. You'd never know she was dying. In those moments, she looked happy, truly happy. We went home around 3 p.m. Mom was exhausted. I helped her into bed and she fell asleep immediately. Patricia and Carol stayed. They'd brought food for a small celebration. Just the four of us in our living room, eating grocery store cake and talking quietly so we wouldn't wake Mom. "You did it," Carol said. "I still can't believe you actually did it." "I can't either. Your mom's so proud. She's been talking about this day for months. It's all she's wanted." Around 10 p.m., I heard Mom call my name. I went to her room. She was sitting up in bed, looking more alert than she'd been in days. "Sit down," she said. "I need to tell you something." I sat on the edge of her bed, my heart already sinking. I knew what was coming. "I'm stopping treatment," she said. The words hit me even though I'd been expecting them. "What?" "I'm done. No more chemo, no more hospital visits, no more fighting. I'm just done." "Mom, no, you can't give up now. You made it to my graduation. We can keep fighting." She shook her head. "I'm not giving up. I'm choosing quality over quantity. The chemo isn't working anymore, honey. It's just making me miserable. And I don't want to spend whatever time I have left being sick. But the doctors said I had 6 months. That was almost a year ago. I've made it this long because I had something to fight for. I needed to see you graduate. That was my goal. Now I've done it, and I'm ready to let go. I'm not ready. I know. But this isn't about being ready. It's about accepting that we don't get to choose when it ends. We only get to choose how we spend the time we have." I was crying now, ugly sobs. "How long? Without treatment? Dr. Patel says maybe a month, maybe less. 3 weeks. She lived 3 more weeks. She stopped the chemo on Monday. By Wednesday, she was noticeably different. Not healthier exactly, but more present. The constant nausea from chemo was gone. She could eat without immediately vomiting. She had brief bursts of energy. We spent those 3 weeks doing small, normal things. We watched movies. All her favorites that I'd seen 100 times. We sat in the backyard and looked at the garden she'd planted years ago, now overgrown and wild. We talked about everything and nothing. Caleb got emergency leave and flew home. The 3 of us sat together like we hadn't since before Dad left. We told stories about when we were kids. We laughed until Mom was too tired to laugh anymore. We cried together. Mom made me promise things. Promise I'd go to college. Promise I'd become a nurse. Promise I'd live my life fully and not let grief consume me. Promise I'd forgive myself for anything I felt guilty about. Promise I'd be happy. "You've spent a year taking care of me," she said one afternoon while we sat in the backyard. "Now you need to take care of yourself. You need to live your life, fall in love, make mistakes, have adventures. Don't let my death define your entire existence." "I don't know how to do that." "You'll learn. You're stronger than you know." During the 3rd week, Mom's pain got worse. We called hospice. They set up a hospital bed in the living room, brought morphine and other medications to keep her comfortable. She slept more and more. The periods of lucidity got shorter. But whenever she was awake, she wanted Caleb and me with her. On Monday morning, 3 weeks and 2 days after she'd stopped treatment, I woke up and knew immediately that something was different. The quality of light in the house felt wrong. I went to Mom's bed. She was awake, but barely. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. "Maddie," she whispered. I took her hand. "I'm here, Mom. I'm right here." Caleb came in, still in his sleep clothes. He took her other hand. We sat with her for 2 hours. We told her we loved her. We thanked her for everything. We promised we'd be okay. At 11:47 a.m., she took a breath. Then she didn't take another one. Just like that, she was gone. The funeral was small. Her friends from the hospital, Patricia, Carol, Denise, and a dozen others, a few neighbors, some distant relatives I barely knew, Caleb and me. Patricia gave a eulogy about Mom's kindness, her dedication to nursing, her fierce love for her children. Carol talked about Mom's sense of humor, how she could make you laugh even on the worst days. Caleb talked about her strength. I couldn't speak. I just sat there in the front row, numb. After the funeral, people came back to the house. They brought food, offered condolences, told stories about Mom. I moved through it all like a ghost. Within a week, everyone was gone. Caleb had to go back to his base. The neighbors returned to their lives. It was just me in the house, surrounded by Mom's things. I had to deal with everything. Sort through her belongings, pay final bills, close accounts, sell the house. We'd mortgaged it for medical expenses, and there was no way I could keep it. I moved through those tasks mechanically. Pack this box, sign this form, make this phone call. I didn't let myself think about what I was doing. I just did it. The house sold quickly. We'd underpriced it to move fast. After paying off the mortgage and medical debts, there was about $15,000 left. Combined with Mom's savings and a small life insurance policy, I had enough for college expenses the scholarship didn't cover. I found a small apartment near State University. 1 bedroom, barely 400 square feet. It was all I needed. Caleb came back for 1 weekend to help me move. We packed up my entire life into his truck in 3 hours. Everything that mattered fit in a dozen boxes. "You going to be okay?" he asked as we finished loading the truck. "I don't know. That's honest, at least." He pulled me into a hug. "Call me. Anytime, day or night. I mean it. I will. And Maddie, Mom would be so proud of you. You know that, right?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. He left the next morning. I moved into my apartment alone. College started in 2 weeks. I spent that time setting up my space, buying textbooks, trying to pretend I was excited, but I felt nothing, just empty. I started classes in late August. Introduction to nursing, anatomy and physiology, general chemistry. Walking onto campus felt surreal. This was what I'd fought for, what Mom had fought for, but I just felt hollow. My roommate situation had fallen through at the last minute, so I had the apartment to myself, which was probably for the best. I wasn't good company. I went to classes, I took notes, I did the assignments, but it all felt meaningless. 2 months in, I had a breakdown during anatomy lab. We were learning about the cardiovascular system, and suddenly I was back in the hospital, watching monitors track Mom's failing heart. I couldn't breathe. I ran out of the classroom and didn't stop until I was outside, gasping for air. My lab partner, a girl named Rachel, found me sitting on a bench, crying. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You're clearly not fine. Do you want to talk about it?" I didn't, but the words came out anyway. I told her everything. About Mom, about senior year, about fighting to graduate, about those last 3 weeks. Rachel just listened. When I finished, she said, "My dad died my sophomore year of high school. Brain aneurysm. One day he was fine, the next day he was gone. Everyone kept telling me I was lucky he didn't suffer, but I would have given anything for 3 more weeks, for a chance to say goodbye. It doesn't feel lucky. It never does. But you did something incredible. You fought for her and you fought for yourself. That counts for something." She gave me the number for campus counseling services. I went there after Dad died. It helped. "You should call them." I did. Started seeing a therapist named Dr. Kim the following week. "You're experiencing what we call complicated grief," Dr. Kim explained. "It happens when you've been a caregiver for an extended period. Your identity became wrapped up in taking care of someone else. Now that they're gone, you don't know who you are anymore. So what do? You learn. You give yourself permission to figure out who you are without that role. And you give yourself time. There's no timeline for grief. It took months. Months of therapy, of forcing myself to go to class even when I didn't want to, of slowly learning to function again. I joined a grief support group on campus. Listening to other people's stories helped. Knowing I wasn't alone helped. Rachel became a close friend. She'd check in on me, drag me to study groups, make sure I was eating. She understood in a way most people didn't. By spring semester, I started feeling human again. The grief was still there, but it wasn't suffocating anymore. I could think about Mom without immediately breaking down. I started excelling in my classes again. My professors noticed. One of them, Dr. Martinez, pulled me aside after class one day. "Have you considered specializing in oncology nursing?" "I don't think I could. My mom died of cancer." "I know. I read your admission essay. That's exactly why you should consider it. You understand what patients and families go through in a way that can't be taught. You have empathy that comes from lived experience." I thought about it. The idea terrified me. Going back into that world, facing cancer every day. But maybe Dr. Martinez was right. Maybe I could use what I'd learned to help others. That summer, I started volunteering at the hospital's oncology unit. At first, it was hard. Every patient reminded me of Mom. Every family looked like us, desperate, exhausted, trying to hold it together. But slowly, it became meaningful. I could help families navigate the same system I'd learned. I could advocate for patients the way I'd advocated for Mom. I could be the support person I'd wished we'd had. One day, I was helping a teenage girl whose mother was going through chemo. The girl was crying in the waiting room, overwhelmed by everything. "I'm missing so much school," she said. "My teachers are getting frustrated. I'm going to fail." I sat down next to her. "No, you're not. You're going to document everything. You're going to talk to your teachers. You're going to be honest about what you're dealing with. And you're going to fight for yourself if you need to." How do you know? Because I did. I told her my story, about senior year, about the attendance policy, about fighting to graduate while Mom was dying. "Did it get easier?" she asked. "Eventually, but not for a while. And that's okay. You don't have to be okay right now. You just have to keep going. One day at a time." She hugged me. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." Walking away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: purpose. I graduated nursing school 3 years later with honors. At graduation, I wore Mom's nursing pin, the one she'd gotten when she graduated from her program 30 years earlier. Patricia and Carol came to watch me walk across the stage. Caleb flew in from wherever he was stationed. "Your mom would be so proud," Patricia said, crying as she hugged me. "She is proud," Carol added. "Wherever she is, she's watching and she's proud." I got a job at the same hospital where Mom had worked, the oncology unit. It felt right, coming full circle. On my first day, one of the older nurses, a woman in her 60s named Linda, recognized Mom's pin. "You're Margaret's daughter," she said, touching the pin gently. "She talked about you all the time, said you were going to be a better nurse than she ever was." I don't know about that. She was right, though. I can already tell. You've got her heart. 5 years after Mom died, I helped establish a patient support fund at the hospital in her name. The Margaret Brooks Caregiver Fund provides financial assistance to families dealing with cancer treatment costs, helping with transportation, meals, respite care, whatever they need. I used the money from selling the house and Mom's life insurance to seed the fund. Then we held fundraisers. Within a year, we'd raised over $200,000. At the dedication ceremony, the hospital asked me to speak. I stood at the podium and looked out at the crowd. Doctors, nurses, patients, families, community members. "My mom was a nurse here for 20 years, I said, my voice steady despite the tears. "She dedicated her life to taking care of other people. When she got sick, I learned what she'd always known, that caring for someone is the hardest and most important work you can do. This fund exists because no family should have to choose between medical care and financial survival. No teenager should have to fight their school just to graduate while caring for a dying parent. My mom never got to see me become a nurse, but everything I do because of what she taught me." After the ceremony, a woman approached me. She was maybe 40, with tired eyes and worn clothes. "Thank you," she said, crying. "My husband has cancer. We've been trying to figure out how to pay for treatment and still buy groceries. This fund, it's going to save us." That's when it hit me. This was what Mom had meant when she'd made me promise her death wouldn't be for nothing. The real graduation hadn't been walking across the stage at 17. It hadn't even been nursing school. It was this: taking the pain and turning it into something that helped others. Using what I'd learned to make the system better for the families coming after me. Mom had held on to see me graduate because she'd known I needed that diploma to build this life. But she'd also held on to teach me everything I needed to know about strength, about fighting, about what really matters. 10 years after that meeting with Principal Matthews, I ran into him at a nursing education conference. He was retiring, giving a speech about supporting students through difficult circumstances. The irony wasn't lost on me. Afterward, I approached him. I wasn't angry anymore. Too much time had passed for anger. "Principal Matthews, I don't know if you remember me, but Madison Brooks," he said immediately, surprise flickering across his face. "Of course I remember. You caused quite a stir at the school board meeting that year." "I did. I wanted to thank you for that." He looked confused. "Thank me? If you'd just let me graduate without fighting, I wouldn't have learned that I could fight. I wouldn't have learned that I could push back against systems that don't make sense, that don't serve the people they're supposed to protect. That skill has served me well in nursing, in advocacy work, in life. So thank you." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I've thought about your case many times over the years. I handled it poorly. I should have been more compassionate, more flexible. I'm sorry I made it so difficult. I'm not. It made me who I am. Your mother would be proud." "Yeah," I said, touching her pin on my collar. "She would be." I still think about senior year sometimes, about those 2 weeks of impossible work, about graduation day, about Mom in her wheelchair in the front row, crying and smiling, about her final 3 weeks. I don't think about it with anger anymore. Or even sadness, just gratitude. Gratitude that I had her as long as I did. Gratitude that she taught me to fight. Gratitude that even in dying, she was teaching me how to live. Sometimes patients' families ask me how I can work in oncology, how I can face death and suffering every single day. I tell them the truth, because I know what it's like to be on the other side. I know what families need. I know how to fight for them when they're too tired to fight for themselves. I know how to sit with them in their grief without trying to fix it or rush them through it. And every time I help a patient, every time I advocate for a family, every time I sit with someone during their final moments, I feel Mom with me. She held on to see me graduate, and I've spent every day since making sure that sacrifice meant something.